The dying line. The sky burned violet above Outpost 9X. Explosions bloomed like dying stars across the shattered moon's horizon as Zoric plasma shells hammered the last of the orbital defenses. The command tower rattled under the shock waves, its reinforced walls groaning like the bones of an old god. Commander Rilvanna stood at the observation deck, her scaled claws clenched behind her back. Her slitted eyes glinted with silent rage. "How long until shields fail?" she asked, not turning. 16 minutes, 34 seconds, replied the AI, its voice too calm for the chaos unfolding. "Give or take." Below her, on the cratered surface of Moira IV's fragmented satellite, the final defensive line buckled. Coalition troops, Zenthari, VRR, Krolin, and 24 others, fired desperately into the advancing Zoric horde. Enemy carriers hung in the low orbit, deploying drones like venom dripping from fangs. Rilvanna's comlink buzzed. "Commander," came a hissing voice. "Sergeant Kovric." Insectoid clicks threaded through his words. "We've lost sectors Theta and Omicron. The drones are flanking. We won't hold much longer. Fall back to the command ridge," Rilvanna ordered. "Set charges. Deny them the cannon." There was a pause. "Understood." She cut the link before he could say more. Words were a luxury. So was hope. 6 days earlier, when the Zoric came, they didn't announce themselves. Their ships shimmered in on wave drives, cutting subspace like blades through silk. Without diplomacy, without declaration, they opened fire. The Coalition's rim worlds fell in days. Outpost 9X, a scientific station turned forward bastion, was the last line between the Zoric Armada and the Central Systems. Help was promised. High Command had pledged the 7th Fleet. Then silence. Communications were jammed. Supplies dwindled. The wounded outnumbered the able. And still the defenders fought. Present. In the med bay, Dr. Keeley applied another stim patch to a Zenthari soldier groaning in pain. Blood of 4 colors stained the walls: blue, green, silver, black. She whispered gentle words, her voice trembling. "Chill. Just breathe. It'll be over soon. You'll be okay." She knew it was a lie. He knew too, but it was something. Keeley glanced up as the lights flickered again. The power grid was failing. They had maybe an hour before full collapse. She looked to the triage corner. 9 more critical, only 2 beds. There was a scream from the hallway, then silence. In the war room, a holographic image flickered to life. The Zoric siege lines pulsed red. Drones, fighters, skirmish cruisers. A sea of death. Every simulation ended the same way. "Commander," said Tactical Officer Haurex, a thin, feathered being from the planet Kef. "They're moving to breach the ridge. No reinforcements, no response from command. We must consider evacuation." "There is no evacuation," Rilvanna growled. "The transports are destroyed on day 3. Then a last stand? We've been making a last stand for 6 days." Silence fell. Then the long-range scanner beeped. It was faint, a distortion, barely registering. But it was not Zoric tech. Not Coalition either. "What is it?" Haurex asked. The AI blinked to life again. "Incoming ship. Small. High mass for its size. Configuration unknown. Vector, warp signature deceleration at 4.2 light minutes. Approaching fast." Everyone leaned in. Rilvanna narrowed her eyes. "Is it a ghost signal?" "No, it's real. And broadcasting." The audio clicked on with a burst of static. A voice followed. Male. Cold. Confident. "This is the UNS Dreadhammer. Requesting combat coordinates." The war room froze. Haurex whispered, "UNS?" Rilvanna's pulse skipped. It couldn't be. "Human?" she asked aloud. "That's impossible. Humanity's fleet vanished after Solarian." "Commander," the AI cut in again. 32 new warp signatures inbound. Same trajectory. Estimated arrival in 30 seconds. Outpost 9X shook, not from enemy fire, but from space itself tearing open. The defenders rushed to the observation decks. Black ships thundered into real space. Long, jagged silhouettes bristling with weaponry, scars of old wars glowing dim red across their hulls. No flags, no fanfare, just destruction forged into metal. Each bore the ancient mark of Earth's old empire, the eagle and globe. Beneath it, letters that made veterans whisper like frightened children. UNSC, United Nations Stellar Command. One ship led the rest. Larger, angrier, alive. The UNS Vindicator. The voice returned. Coalition Outpost 9X, this is Admiral Graves. We receive your signal via Dark Line Relay. Reinforcements have arrived. Howrex almost collapsed. This must be a trick. No, Rilvanna said, her voice low with awe. This is humanity. Flashback, the legend of Earth. Decades ago, humanity joined the coalition as a minor power. They fought in border skirmishes, learned quickly, adapted faster. Then the Zorik came. At the Battle of Solarian, Earth sent its fleet to stall the advance. They succeeded, barely. But the price was everything. Every ship lost. Every soldier gone. Or so everyone believed. Some said Earth was dead. Others whispered of the ghost fleet. Human ships hiding in dark space, building, waiting, watching. The galaxy moved on. Without them. Present. Commander, the comms officer gasped. They've already engaged the Zorik. Screens lit up. The Dreadhammer vanished mid-flight, then reappeared behind a Zorik cruiser, unleashing a cascade of kinetic rods that pierced armor like paper. No warnings, no hesitation. The Vindicator's main cannon fired once. A beam of raw white light cracked a Zorik dreadnought in half. Coalition defenders stared as human marines deployed from black dropships, slamming into the moon's surface like thunder. Sergeant Kovric emerged from the trenches, stunned. A group of human soldiers approached, clad in exo-armor darker than space. Their helmets were featureless. Their weapons pulsed with silent menace. One spoke, voice filtered and low. You fall back. We push forward. Kovric didn't argue. Rilvanna finally spoke, her voice shaking. Open the command channel. It clicked on. This is Commander Rilvanna of Coalition Outpost 9X. Humanity, why now? There was a pause. Then Graves replied, because you held the line, and Earth never forgets those who bleed for the stars. Earth's Shadow Armada. The battlefield had changed. Where once there was only desperate defense and dying screams, now came a different sound, precision, fury, human fire. From orbit to the cratered surface of Moira IV's shattered moon, Earth's fleet was rewriting the definition of war. In orbit, the Zorik High dreadnought Stalin stood as the centerpiece of their siege, 3 kilometers long, swarming with drones, cannons, and shield arcs the coalition had never cracked. But Earth's fleet didn't challenge it conventionally. Instead, the UNS Vindicator launched a pod, not a missile, not a bomb. A black needle-shaped capsule that dove directly into the dreadnought's outer shielding, survived the impact, and latched on like a parasite. 3 seconds later, the capsule exploded inward, imploding into micro-wormholes that shredded internal decks. The Stalin buckled, groaned, and died, its central reactor chain igniting in a fiery spiral of white plasma. One of the most feared warships in Zorik history was gone, and Earth didn't even name the weapon they used. On the moon's surface, Sergeant Kovric followed the humans through the crater maze, his chitin legs clicking as he tried to match pace with soldiers half his size, but twice as relentless. They moved like shadows, silent, fast, coordinated without words. Their AI-linked visors painted the battlefield in red and gold. Target, bunker nest ahead, one of them said. Kovric peeked around the rock. Zorik brutes, big and armored. The human soldier didn't hesitate. He raised a device that looked more like a sculpture than a weapon. A beam of green-white light lanced forward, cutting the Zorik bunker in two. The humans didn't cheer. They didn't taunt. They just moved on. Back in the war room, Commander Rilvanna watched from the command platform as holograms updated in real time. Zorik formations were collapsing sector by sector. Human AI drones swept the battlefield, hunting and terminating Zorik resistance with mechanical precision. Howrex blinked. I don't understand. How did Earth become this? Rilvanna didn't answer right away. Her mind was still processing. These aren't the humans we remember, she said quietly. These are what they became to survive. Flashback, the Phantom Years. The Battle of Solarian was humanity's sacrifice. But Earth didn't die. After the war, they vanished, retreating to soul space and sealing its borders. Unbeknownst to the galaxy, they were building the Shadow Armada, an entire military force based on stealth, misdirection, and forbidden tech. They studied every enemy, learned every weakness, stole Zoric designs, then improved them. What emerged from the darkness wasn't a desperate force. It was an apex predator of war. Human Marines, groundside. Dr. Keeley ran beside a wounded human Marine, dragging him back to cover as Zoric sniper rounds whistled past. The man's armor had melted in places, revealing blistered skin beneath. She activated her last med-gel pack. "Why are you here?" she asked as she worked. The Marine gave a faint smirk through the pain. "Because the universe forgot what fear was." Then he passed out. In orbit, the UNS Dreadhammer and her sister ship, the UNS Scourge, executed a crossfire maneuver so precise it split an entire Zoric carrier fleet into two flanks. Human war algorithms predicted enemy moves 3 volleys ahead. There were no wasted shots, no unnecessary words, just annihilation. The turning point. The Zoric Imperium rarely retreated, but now they were. Ship after ship tried to break orbit. Human interceptors cloaked, intercepted, and disabled or vaporized them before they could flee. And then came the final act. Operation Broken Crown. Target: the Zoric Command Citadel, deep within the moon's crust, surrounded by plasma mines, heavy turrets, and bio-shielded gates. Rilvanna insisted on joining the final strike. Admiral Graves allowed it. The assault. The strike team included Rilvanna, Zenthari commander, 2 human AI-piloted war drones, Kovrik, VR sergeant, 4 human Blackline Marines, a demolition tech called Sparks, a woman with cybernetic arms and a mischievous grin. They breached the Citadel using a dimensional shunt bomb, a device that cut a hole in physics itself. Inside was carnage. Zoric elites with organic armor and blade limbs. The Marines moved through them like a scythe through wheat. Kovrik held the flank, ripping through enemies with his claws. Rilvanna speared a general through the throat with her plasma halberd. And then they reached the core. The warhead. At the Citadel's heart, Sparks activated the Singularity Warhead, a miniature black hole generator. She gave the group 5 minutes. "I've always wanted to break the universe," she said with a wink. They fled as alarms blared. Behind them, the command center folded in on itself, collapsing into darkness, dragging everything into a singularity knot. With it, the Zoric siege broke. Aftermath. Within hours, the remaining Zoric forces either surrendered or self-destructed. Coalition troops cheered for the first time in weeks. Earth's fleet didn't stay. They dropped supplies, medical units, and data uplinks. Then, just as they arrived, they prepared to vanish. Final moments. Rilvanna met Admiral Graves aboard the Vindicator's observation deck. He was older than she imagined. Tired eyes, hard face, but not cruel. "You could have arrived sooner," she said quietly. "We could have," Graves replied. "But timing matters more than presence. We needed the Zoric to overextend. We needed them confident." She stared at the stars. "How long have you been watching?" "Since Solarian. We never left. Just learned." She turned to him. "Will you stay?" Graves shook his head. "No. Earth doesn't belong in the councils anymore. We're not diplomats. We're insurance." The next morning, the human fleet jumped to dark space. Only one message was left behind, engraved into the metal of the command tower. "When the stars fall and no allies remain, light the sky." Earth remembers. Earth returns. Epilogue. Dr. Keeley placed a human patch flag on the grave of the Marine she tried to save. She didn't know his name, but she knew what he gave. Sergeant Kovrik trained new recruits in human-style tactics, adapting what he'd seen. Rilvanna sent a report to the Coalition High Command. "Humanity is not lost. They are simply waiting for the moment war demands monsters. And the galaxy, forever changed, began to whisper a new phrase. When all hope dies, Earth arrives.